Welcome to Busy Research, the podcast where business meets data and insights drive success. I'm your host, Vicki McCarthy, Director of the Center for Applied Business Research at Austin Peay State University. On this podcast, we get busy learning about how applied business research can improve business decision-making. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Busy Research. On today's episode, we're going to learn more about the world of commercial real estate and bring you an insightful conversation with an industry expert, Rylan Keene, the Vice President of Millan Enterprise in Clarksville, Tennessee. Millan Enterprises is a prominent player in the commercial real estate scene, and we're excited to gain some valuable insights from their VP today. Not only is Rylan the VP of Millan Enterprises, but he's also an alum of Austin Peay State University. Thank you so much, Rylan, for being on our show. To kick things off, could you give our listeners a brief introduction of yourself to include your educational background and your role at Millan Enterprises?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me today. So I'm a Clarksville native, was not born here. I was born in Texas, but I was raised in Clarksville and had the awesome blessing of actually being raised at Austin Peay. My dad has worked there for going on 35 years. So had an amazing kind of upbringing around higher education, and that led me to get my degree there. So I have an undergrad degree in 2010 in leadership and communication, and then a master's degree in 2015 in leadership as well. Through that time, I had a little bit of different career shifts, but my most prominent one was actually working at Austin Peay. I was working in the Alumni Center and then transferred over to work on fundraising. So I was over the annual giving. And then at some point, random in life, I had an epiphany and switched gears completely and jumped onto the real estate train and opened a business down in Nashville, flipping properties and buying rental properties, and had a successful gig going for a couple years, and had a family kind of situation, where you want to spend more time with your family. And so had that epiphany happen and realized I wanted to be back in Clarksville and really spend my roots and build my roots here and really develop those relationships and spend time with my kids and have that ability. And so that led me to Millan Enterprises and Leo Millan, and thankfully had some opportunities to come in and work with them. And so I've been in Clarksville my entire life and have two beautiful sons, a little girl that will probably be here by the time this airs. She is coming March 2nd, an amazing wife, Taylor. And so this is home.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your upcoming new baby. That's very exciting. And it sounds like you have some very deep roots in Clarksville with your family, your education and experiences, which I imagine could be an asset to working in this industry with Millan Enterprises and your connections that you have here. So in terms of Millan, it seems like right now they're a pretty prominent player in Clarksville commercial real estate market. And can you give our listeners a bit of an overview of Millan Enterprises and the kind of projects that they're working on currently?
Yeah, so Millan Enterprises is a different animal. And I usually laugh when people ask me, what do I do? Just because some days I don't know what I do. And sometimes I'd say, I don't know what we do. But there are some core functions that are a part of our DNA, and that is property management. So the Millan family owns a portfolio of about 800 properties, residential and commercial. While most of that is in Clarksville, we are actually throughout the Southeast. So we have a heavy presence in some of the Nashville submarkets, the Memphis submarkets, and then also St. Pete, Florida. And then we have some random houses kind of all over the U.S. But that is our core operations. However, it goes much deeper. And so we have a vast network of employment where we go out and we source labor for companies or contracts. We are involved in marketing. We have a heavy marketing presence. And then we have ServPro. We just acquired a flooring company. So we are very diverse. And so usually what I tell people is we're more like an investment firm. The way we operate is geared towards property management, but we're very diverse. And so we like to think of ourselves as the group that can get it done when everyone else says they can't do it. So we have been acquiring buildings, we rehab them, we repurpose them. That's been a big part of our portfolio. And then we do purchase standalone units. And then we also are involved in development. So we will purchase raw land and actually go in and build a retail center. And if you've been in the Clarksville area and you see the beautiful black and white buildings, those are ours. And we're very proud of that, as well as some larger office buildings in the downtown area. And then if you've seen the news in the past year or so, we've announced the Millan Center, which is a 350,000 square foot building that will be downtown, 11 stories. Will be the tallest building in Clarksville outside of the industrial park, as well as larger than the F&M Arena.
And I have seen those beautiful buildings around town. Do you plan for the Millan 11-story building to also be that color scheme down there?
Yeah, that's always a question we get. We have some initial concepts. We actually have a design meeting that happens weekly where we are discussing those things. I imagine the white and the black will definitely be incorporated. And while we like to be forward thinking, we do believe we have some core design elements that are classy and last through the time. And so that's very intentional. And so when we do look at that design, we don't go cheap. We go for what is going to last. And so even though the color is a part of that, it goes down to what kind of brick we use, what kind of windows we use. And so that center is purposely being designed to last for many, many years and be a part of this portfolio.
And you talked a little bit about sub-markets when you were saying that across the nation, Nashville, Memphis, St. Pete's, and all over, you were in various sub-markets. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? By what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big part of what I'm responsible for is acquisitions. And over the years, we've been in mainly Clarksville, but over the past 5 years, really since probably COVID kicked off, we have started to venture out. And so those markets are heavily dominated by commercial real estate. We don't do too much residential in those areas, but those areas happen to be just hot areas for us. I mentioned very briefly that we're involved in ServPro. So Leo Millan is a part owner with another gentleman from Clarksville, and ServPro, I believe they have 23 franchises across the Southeast. They were number 2 in production for ServPro throughout the U.S. last year. But with that, those locations have become kind of areas that we've focused in on. And so as we venture out, we look for opportunities where we already have logistics. And so our headquarters is based here, and our infrastructure is based here, but we're able to logistically kind of spread out and go down to those markets. And we don't do too much redevelopment, but we do look for what we call Class B, Class A properties in those markets that are performing well, that may still have a little bit of upswing, and then what we call credit tenants. So these are tenants that are a little less mom and pop businesses, and we love those, but they do require usually a little more hands-on. These are tenants that, we feel that the property is very stable, and then we can maybe add some beautification or some updates to it, but we're looking for stable properties, mostly occupied.
And it's clear that Millan Enterprises is deeply rooted in the Clarksville community. So how does the company prioritize community involvement? And are there any initiatives or projects that Millan Enterprises is particularly proud of in terms of community impact?
So I think everything we do is actually geared towards the community. And I'm going to back up for a second and answer that previous question. First, I would say part of that market understanding of where we're going is also intentional on, can we replicate how we do our community here, how we build community, how we treat our tenants, how we treat our prospects or past tenants. We want that replicated in those cities. And so what does that look like? I think that comes down to the core of who we are as individuals. And so our employees are not like normal employees, and not to speak bad about anyone, but we're very intentional about finding people that fit that soft skill that's hard to teach, that they do the right thing even when no one's looking. They do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And so that culture we built internally, we purposefully bring that into the communities we're in. And so for Clarksville, it's been home for many, many years. Leo Millan is a veteran of the United States Air Force. That's what brought them from California to here. And what you find is those connections lead to more connections. And so we have connections to Austin Peay. We have connections to the military base here. And then we have connections to YAPACs. That's probably one of our largest, most successful projects that we've been able to be a part of. And while we're not doing the logistics or day to day with Sherry Nicholson and her team at YAPACs, we've been able to come alongside them. And so we view a lot of our support as we support those who are doing the great things. And then we have some individual projects that we also go do. We're heavily involved in global outreach. We actually have a team of 6 employees going down to Guatemala in a few weeks, and they've been twice now already. And they're helping build wells and build a hospital. And so we are intentional not only locally in this community, and we're very proud of the groups that we support and sponsor and come alongside with, but we also go out into the greater world and do the same thing. And we're looking for that long-term impact. We're not looking for short-term, look at us on, Facebook and see what we're doing. We really believe that we want to change the world. We want to change Clarksville for the better. And so when we're involved, we do that intentionally. One of the most exciting things that we have coming up, and this is probably, if Leo was here, he would say this is probably the highlight of his life. But we're very excited to be launching the Millan Foundation this May, I believe is when the date is, or March. But we have the Millan Foundation coming up this year in 2024, and that is huge. And so that foundation is going to become a resource for nonprofits anywhere, and then also help kind of bring all of our different projects together and allow us to really provide a direct impact into the areas that we've been supporting.
Wow. So you have just local community impact, national and global outreach. And that is amazing. I'm very excited to hear about the launch of the Millan Foundation and look forward to watching that more in the future. And you did talk a little bit about intentionally looking for employees and building a work culture of people focused on the long term and a sustainable impact. Can you talk a little bit about some of those soft skills that you mentioned in particular that you look for in employees?
Hiring is one of the hardest things that we do, I think, at any company. And you'll hear the complaints a lot. Well, there's just not enough good people, or they're not trained correctly. And I think we've taken that approach and recognized, hey, the workplace is tight, and if you're good, it's hard to recruit because there's lots of places who want those great people. So what we've done is really look at, yes, you have a resume and you have some experience, but who are you? What makes up you? How do you make decisions? And so critical thinking is a big part of what I look for, what I believe our team looks for. How do you think and why do you think that way? We use the DISC profile. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that has been instrumental, not necessarily for the hiring part, but we do pay attention to people's styles and how they communicate. And that's really important when that meshes together with the team. And a D personality, for example, is a very dominant personality. Well, you may not want that position in certain positions in our company because that may not be helpful in the situation. You may need someone who's a little bit more people oriented. And vice versa. So we look at things like that to be intentional. But when it comes down to who the individual is, there's no formula. It's more, I want to get to know you, and I want to know, are you a good person? Do you think bigger than just what the process is? Are you able and comfortable to raise your hand and say, hey, there's an issue? We believe in feedback. We love feedback. I absolutely love when my team challenges me on an idea, and I'm an idea person. I love ideas, so I'll throw out 100, and I need that team to push back and say, "Hey, I don't think that'll work." And sometimes being at the top, people just do what you say, and that's not what we want. So when I sit down with an individual, and I'm actually hiring for I think 6 positions right now, we're really growing, and each one of those. There's a filter initially, if you have students that are listening, your resume, yes, it's important and you need some things on there. There's some qualifications on there. But for me, when you get to that next level and you get to get on a phone call or Zoom or in person, what I really want to know is more just about you and how you think. And to me, that's the most critical part.
Well, and I do appreciate that feedback. And I think it would be very helpful for aspiring employees or students getting out of their business program or other degree programs. So thank you for that. Is there any particular advice, any other advice you have for aspiring professionals that may be looking to get into the commercial real estate industry or looking at jobs with Millan Enterprises?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for commercial real estate is that it's passed up a lot of times. People associate real estate with real estate agents almost immediately, and then they think, I'm buying and selling a home. And but part of my job, I am over our residential team as well. We have a whole residential development, and I'm a licensed real estate agent as well. But I try to share with people, if real estate is of interest to you, you don't have to go out by yourself and be a real estate agent and buy and sell a home. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that myself. But there's actually a whole career on the commercial side. And there's many, many avenues even within that. And so I'll quickly list a couple for anyone who is listening, who is interested in it. So there is commercial property management. And it's not quite like residential property management. It's very much more robust, a lot more intricate, a lot more details go into that. And that can actually be a very, very well-paying career as you move up. There is commercial leasing. So you're actually can split that in half again. You can be a tenant rep. So you're actually working with someone who's looking to come into a space. And then you can also be what's called a landlord rep. And usually you'll find there's a specialty for either one. And so there's an avenue there. And then there's actually the brokerage side, which you can buy and sell commercial real estate. And typically you're going to see that split from residential. Some kind of smaller town like we're in, a lot of agents may double dip. But, career wise, if you are interested in real estate, those are great careers. I tell people all the time, there's not a lot of people in it. People kind of stumble into it, but the pay is great. The experience is great. And you really just have so much room to move up. You become a very hot commodity for someone who's looking for opportunities to move, especially to bigger cities or even some remote work. That lies in commercial real estate. And so someone who's listening, what I would say is, don't sell yourself short. Absolutely. If you get a chance to do an internship, jump in and do it. Heck, I tell people how I ended up at Millan is I called Leo one day driving back from Nashville and said, I'm coming back to Clarksville. I don't have a job yet, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm a licensed agent, and I'm interested in real estate still. It's what I've done. Can I just come hang out with you? And 4 years later, I'm the vice president of operations. But sometimes you have to take a chance and bet on yourself. And those are the people to me that stand out. And I think we sell ourselves short a lot of times when we get in a room and we're uncomfortable. And that's good. We need to be uncomfortable and stretch ourselves, but also be confident to get the job done. So say yes a lot. Try new things. Don't close doors. And I love commercial real estate. I think it's a great opportunity. And if you're interested, I'd give it a shot and at least see if you like it.
Great advice, Rylan. Say yes a lot, try new things, and keep the doors open. I think that is great advice for our listeners. So thank you very much for that insight into the commercial real estate industry. It has certainly been a pleasure having you on the show and gaining insights into this world of commercial real estate, in particular in Clarksville, Tennessee. But if our listeners want to learn more about you and Millan Enterprises, how can they connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. If you type in Rylan Kean, RYLANKEAN, on LinkedIn, I'll show up hopefully. Or else you can find me on our website at millanenterprises.com, and that's MILLAN enterprises.com. You can check out all the things we're involved in. We have co-working space, which is the press. We are in aviation, which a lot of people don't know yet. And we have storage, residential, and commercial properties, and now a flooring company. So we're in a lot of industries, and happy to help you out. That's a big part of what I do is connect people and get them pointed in the right direction.
Great. And I will include those in the show notes for today's show, both your LinkedIn address and also Millan Enterprises website, so that listeners who are interested in finding out more about what you do can connect with you. Again, Rylan, thank you for such a great interview. I appreciate your time, and I know our listeners have learned a lot today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and let's go P.
Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Busy Research. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. We'll catch you in the next episode of Busy Research. Until then, stay curious and busy.